Welcome to Flip It Furniture. My name is Amy, and in today's video we're making over a 9-drawer French Provincial dresser and mirror. I started this makeover a few days ago because I thought I was going to just paint it white and do the Rose Celebration transfer again and sell it in my booth, but I've had a change of heart because I'm sick of doing the same thing over and over again. So I started out by sanding the top smooth. I just did a nice light sanding, and I've already primed the drawer fronts. I used Zinsser's Bin Primer. Now that you're all caught up, let's flip it. I always start with a good cleaning, so I'm using my Dixie Belle's White Lightning. It's 1 tablespoon of White Lightning to 16 ounces of water, and I just wipe the whole thing down, and then I take my rag with water and I make sure that there's no cleaner residue left. Now I'm going to take my Elmer's wood filler and I'm going to go around and just fill in any dents that I see. And I didn't show this because I wasn't recording at the time, but my dad came over with his air nailer and helped me reinforce the top. He just put 5 nails in there for me. And now I'm gonna fill those with some wood filler too because I'm painting the top. I'm not sanding it, so you won't be able to see them. Now I'm gonna finish what I started and I'm gonna prime the rest of this piece. I'm using my Zinsser's Bin, and that's what I used on the drawer fronts. I used 2 coats on the drawer fronts, but I'm only gonna use 1 coat on the base because I don't think there's gonna be any sort of tannins coming through this, and it doesn't really have a smell, so I'm just gonna do 1 coat and call it a day. I know a lot of people have a hard time using this primer because it's oil-based, but once you do it a few times, you'll get used to it. And to clean your brushes, if you have some like liquid Dawn that I use for washing my dishes and stuff, it works really great to clean your brushes up. Now all my wood filler is dry, and I'm going through with my sanding block and I'm just gonna sand off any excess. So now for the top, I'm using Dixie Belle Slick Stick, and I switched from bin to Slick Stick because I know that the top is much more slick and I want the extra adhesion. This is just my personal preference. You can use bin if you'd like, but for me this is just easier. I water it down a little bit with my water mister, and I try to get a really even application because if you don't with Slick Stick, it will show your brush strokes through the paint. So make sure that you sand down after you do your 2 coats of it. You do 2 coats and wait overnight for it to dry. Now for the base of the dresser, I'm going to do 1 full coat on the dresser drawer fronts and the base of Dixie Belle's Haint Blue. It looks like it's almost like a whitish blue, but when it dries a little bit darker, so it is definitely a light powder blue. Here I want to show you that I do paint that little wooden detail on the sides and on the bottom because when you pull your drawers out, you can see that. So I think that's pretty important detail. If you skip that, when you pull your drawers out, it'll look like wood. So just to have a nice uniform look, we want to paint that. So now I have a full coat dried of Haint Blue on the entire dresser except the top and the mirror. And now I'm going to go and do some shading with Dusty Blue. That's a darker blue by Dixie Belle. So I decided that I'm going to have the bottom in the darker color, sort of going up into the lighter color. And it's not exactly an ombre because I am gonna just shade certain parts of the dresser, but I'm using the same color family so that I can have this rich sort of princess feel. Literally, my daughter was like, you should do a princess theme, you know, and then I thought of Elsa and Cinderella, and I went through my stuff and there you go, there's where the blue came from. I had 2 different blues and I thought these would be beautiful together. I'm taking my darker blue, the Dusty Blue on the bottom, and I'm blending it into the lighter blue. If you're just starting out, I really recommend using the same color family and doing darker and lighter because it's a lot more forgiving when you're blending. You don't have to be, it's not like super overwhelming. Even if you make a mistake and it's not perfect, you can't really tell because they're in the same color family. And it's really a win-win because it turns out just beautifully. So on the bottom of this leg, I used my Dusty Blue, and then I went back with my Haint Blue over the top and covered it. Now the middle almost looks like it's blending into sort of a gray, which is okay, but I do want to keep them both blues. There will be a little bit of gray in there, and that's fine because that's what happens when you blend colors. You get a third color. But I use my napkin to wipe my brushes quite often so that they're not contaminated with each other's colors. So here we are on the side of the dresser, and I'm using my dusty blue on the bottom, and I'm going to use my water mister, and this is my second coat, so I want to cover the entire top with the Haint Blue. I'm just going for a look where the bottom looks a little bit darker on the sides. So my blends for this dresser are not overly complicated. Your blend doesn't have to be completely uniform on your entire piece. So I'm just gonna have it on the bottom of the sides, maybe going up a little bit in the corners. So here I went from my light blue to my dark blue brush, and I wanna bring that dark blue up a little bit. So now I have my light brush again, and I'm bringing it back down. And that is the basics of blending. You're just making the colors meet in the middle without leaving harsh lines. So here I spray with my water mister, and then I grab my dark blue again, and I'm gonna bring it up. I did that one corner in the right over there, and now I'm going for my left corner. I switched brushes again, and now I'm bringing my light blue back down into the dark blue. Using your water mister to move your colors around really helps, and then using a Kleenex or napkin or something to wipe your brushes off every so often really helps with that contamination part, so that your colors are true to what they are. Now you can watch for the rest of this that I'm just switching my brushes back and forth in different directions just to have a nice smooth blend between colors. I do want to add that blending does not come easy to me. It's one of those things that I really had to practice and learn and do over and over and over again. For me, it's actually probably one of the hardest techniques that I've had to learn, but it's definitely the most worth it. It just takes your project to a whole nother level. Once you learn how to blend, you can do boho, you can do elegant, you can do glam, there's just so many looks that you can do, and it's definitely worth taking the time to learn. So the outline of the drawers, I am painting in the dusty blue because I want it, when the drawers go in, I want it to be really, catching for the eye. I want it to just blend sort of nicely too. And I don't even have to do any blending for this. I'm just painting it in the solid color, and when I put the drawers in, it will look blended. So really quick, I want to show you how I do one of the drawers. There are 9 drawers on this, so I know in my head that they're not all going to be uniform and perfect, but if I do the same thing for each of them, I can get pretty close. My first step is to outline the drawer in the dusty blue. It already has a base coat of the Haint Blue. And then for the center, I want to add my Haint Blue. And I'm just adding a little bit of water, and I'm spreading it out pretty even. Then you can see that contamination there I had to wipe off. Now I'm using my dusty blue again, and I didn't add any water or any paint to it, but it still has a little bit on there, so I'm going to use that, and that's exactly what I do for every drawer. And then I'm going to go back in with my lighter one, just a little bit of it, and I'm going to soften up the lines. On my drawers, I did use a dry brush, and there's my dry brush right there. The dry brush really helps to get rid of any lines or any colors that you don't want, because you're sort of, any extra, you're sort of just wiping it off with a dry brush. Now here I'm getting ready to paint the mirror, and I'm going to use the deck of cards trick. I saw my friend Rochelle do it on her video. I think it was last week or the week before, from Mono Lane Furniture, and she did it with regular cards, but I can't find any. So I'm going to try to do it with my Go Fish cards. And you're supposed to use some blue tape and tape the outsides of the cards, but I can't find my blue tape, so I'm just going for it, and I'll hold them down. So I put them in, and then I'm going to add my primer, and then I'm going to add a base coat of dusty blue. Now I will say about this entire process, if your cards don't go into the mirror smoothly, don't force it, because when I did take them out, I ended up not being able to get one that I forced in back out. So it's stuck in there, and I probably have to go in with my razor blade and try to fish it out. Now here's how I do a little bit of highlights on the mirror. I took my dusty blue and did the edges, and now I'm taking my Haint blue and I'm just gonna highlight the inside and then go back with my dusty blue down the sides to eliminate any harsh lines. And here I want to show you, there's that Go Fish card. You can see it behind the mirror right there. I have to use my razor blade and try to get it out. So now for the top, I've done 2 coats of Slick Stick, and I waited for it to dry in between coats about 2 hours. Then I waited overnight, and now I want to apply a top coat of driftwood. So we're going to do 2 coats of driftwood, waiting for it to dry in between coats also. And this driftwood is also Dixie Belle Paint Company. I'm using my water mister and my brush, and I'm just trying to get 2 coats on there. I'm not going to be super crazy about brush marks because I know I'm going to do some whitewashing on this, so you don't have to be super particular about the brush marks. So here I am doing a whitewash. I'm using my Rust-Oleum's chalked in white linen, and then I'm going to add a little bit of water. I'm definitely doing a lot more paint than water on this one because I want to really brighten it up. I'm just using this gray bottom for some depth. I want it to be a little two-toned, and that's all about shading again. And this is a really easy way to get some depth and interest in your top. I always start by adding just 1 line of whitewash and then going through just so I can get a feel of how much I want to take off and how much pressure I'm going to use. And then when I feel comfortable, I start adding a lot more. Like this, like I'm adding probably 3 rows because now I know exactly how much I want to keep on and I want to take off. And I will leave a link to how to whitewash in the description box below because I did make a video and it talks a little bit more about the pressure that you put on your rag. And I've used a lot of things to try to wipe back my whitewash, and I recommend using a lint-free cloth. It's my favorite to use. It just, for some reason, it gives me a lot of great uniformity. It doesn't take too much off, and I love the way it looks. I've been asked a few times if you can add a second coat of whitewashing, and I do it all the time. This wasn't light enough for me, so I went in and I added another coat, and I still get that nice gray depth. Now to seal this piece, I'm using Varathane's water-based polyurethane in satin, and I'm going to use this sealer for everything. The top, the mirror, the drawer fronts, the base, everything. It's going to get 2 coats on the base and mirror, and it's going to get 3 coats on the top. And I always wait for it to dry in between coats. I wanted to record like this so you guys could see exactly how I put the top coat on. I use a pretty uniform amount through the whole top, and I sort of lay my brush back and forth. If I miss anything, or if there's like a little gap where I didn't cover it because, you know, it's clear and you can't really see it, I always make sure that I cover it in my second coat. Now here I'm going to work on my hardware, and I've used some soapy Brillo pads, just some generic ones from the store, and I washed them down. And then I'm using Rust-Oleum's metallic in silver. It's a paint and I've had it forever. It lasts so long. And then I'm gonna just give them a nice spray with the water-based polyurethane spray can in semi-gloss so that we can give them a little bit of shine. And then I'm gonna add them to the dresser as my finishing touches. And here it is, all finished. This is just 2 colors from the same color family, and look at what a big difference it made. It's just a little bit of shading, you know. I didn't go crazy with blending and all these colors, and it just made a huge impact on the entire dresser. And the top turned out gorgeous. It's 2 coats of driftwood and then 2 coats of whitewash. And I think the satin finish sealer really made it pop. And if you like this video, please hit the like and subscribe button, and I will see you next week.